Welcome everyone to another nuking experiment. So previously we had an experiment similar to the Pulaski's preservation shelter. Originally we were going to test to see if we could survive in a fridge like Billy the Kid did in Fallout 4, but we could not find a fridge that we could fit in. So we decided to go with something else that you see a lot around in the wasteland and you can enter freely without a loading screen, and that is the portable toilet. Which, not surprising to many, we were not able to survive a nuke explosion. Still, it was at least worth a test because you never know what could have been right under our noses for nuclear protection, because they are everywhere around the wasteland like the Pulaski preservation shelters. And after all, this is just a game, so you never know the possibilities of what could happen. In this episode though, we're going to be seeing what happens when we nuke Tanagra Town. Now this will also be hitting the abandoned waste dump, a ransacked bunker, and not to mention, sadly, my camp as well. But I'm willing to take one for the team because I think this is a really interesting location to nuke. I have had this on the back burner for quite some time. A lot of the community has been recommending me to nuke this location, and there's a lot of good reasons. This place is a very unique and mysterious area. Probably one of the top unique areas in Fallout 76, in my opinion. As far as enemies though, there aren't really that many. There could be potentially a boss fight or something interesting to happen here though, such as connecting with aliens or as well as encountering some kind of beast that we might have to fight. It could be connected with the interloper that dwells at the bottom of the Lucky Hole mine. There's quite a bit of connections with the two, and I'll get more into detail about this after we see what happens when we nuke this location. If nothing triggers after nuking, that doesn't mean that something interesting isn't going to happen here though. Feel free to stick around after the nuking experiment because I'll be sharing some of the mysteries of this place that makes it even more interesting. Also, I'll be sharing with you the password to this keypad inside this building at Tanagra Town so you can get the hidden loot inside. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what happens now when we do nuke this location.
Attention. Launch system activated. Launch tube will seal in 30 seconds. All personnel should exit the launch tube immediately.
Okay, so was Tanagra Town worth it to hit with a nuke? Overall, no. There were a few insects around that you could encounter, as well as some super mutants and scorched enemies here and there. And not to mention, there were a few heavy-duty enemies that we can encounter, such as before you head up to the top of this giant floating landmass, we can run into a fog crawler, a mega sloth, or a death claw. And keep in mind, when this area is nuked, of course, they're going to be stronger within the nuke. As you can see, I encountered myself a glowing death claw. We also seen 2 level 80 scorched beasts flying around this area, which can be kind of a pest at times if you're not well equipped or at a decent level. And at the top of Tanagra Town, inside the cave where the strange mysterious statue head is at, which I'll be getting into further in this video, there were loads of glowing cave crickets. But typically cave crickets do spawn up here, so this isn't something that was triggered just because of the nuke. There were also some fluorescent flux and crimson flux that we could collect up here, as well as plenty of crystal and gold ore inside this cave next to this giant mysterious statue head. And also, not to mention, I have no idea if this area is in relation or not, but something interesting to know is Flatwoods monsters always contain crystal shards on them, and there is loads of crystal veins inside here, but nothing really worth it to nuke specifically. Anyways, before I get into the mysteries over this area, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the other locations and how they were affected. Starting with the abandoned waste dump. There were 2 level 91 glowing death claws inside, which thankfully you hardly ever see death claws running in packs like this. Well, let's just say inside the abandoned waste dump, when a nuke is at this area, it's terrifying. I mean, let alone without a nuke at this area. It can still be kind of terrifying, it just depends on what your level is and how equipped you are. Other than the 2 death claws, there really isn't much going on, but it's cool to know they were affected inside an area that requires a loading screen. Now, I've went over this in previous episodes before, so if you've been following along with this series, you probably already know that. But for those of you that didn't, yes, enemies are affected by the nuke that require loading screens too. As for the Ransacked Bunker though, that was a complete dud. Unless you're looking to take out some glowing rad roaches, because that's all that was inside this area. I even checked out around Tanagra Town in the back of the nuke explosion radius, and back there it was pretty much empty. A few nuked flora here and there, but for the most part, nothing. Which, real quick, for those of you that are curious about the flux, the enlightened fungus will provide you with crimson flux. There's also these here called bloom blooms that'll provide crimson flux as well. And these mushrooms that have like an orangish yellowish tint to them will provide you with fluorescent flux, as well as these flowers that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with because they're at White Springs as well, will also provide you with fluorescent flux. There's also the glowing pods around that you can find, which I'm not gonna lie, these sometimes juke me out. I think there's like an enemy up ahead that's glowing purple or something, and it turns out it's just these glowing pods. But yeah, I don't know if that's just me. Also, there is flash fern around too that'll provide us with violet flux. Also, the quantum leaves will provide cobalt, and the Geiger blossoms around Tanagra Town will provide yellow cake. But anyways, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, my camp was also nuked in the process of testing out this area. So yeah, here's the aftermath of my camp. I did manage to get it repaired, but you know, it did require a lot to do that. I know, laugh at my pain. Laugh at my pain. At least now we know at the moment Tanagra Town is not worth it. For those of you that may be wondering why I do have my camp located up here, it's because there is a black titanium deposit over here. I may regret saying this, but yeah, this helped out a ton with repairing my excavator power armor because I was always running low on black titanium. And, well, I stumbled upon a deposit up here, and I was like, alrighty, well then, I'm going to use this location to stack up on some black titanium because I use the excavator power armor quite a bit. Oh, and also, by the way, if you don't know how to place down an extractor to be able to get the black titanium from this deposit, when and if you do place a camp around this area, you will notice that you will have an extractor for black titanium automatically. As long as there is a deposit nearby, whatever that said deposit is, you'll have an extractor for if you placed your camp near that deposit. And you'll be able to locate it in the resources category. Alrighty, so now since the aftermath has been discussed, let's go ahead and get into the mysteries of this place. Starting with the building with the locked door with the keypad that requires a password to unlock the door. Now you can actually find out this password over in the White Springs Bunker in the military wing, which is at the bottom of White Springs Bunker. Once you're inside the military wing, as you can see, this is what it'll look like. You just want to go up to the terminal in the top left row of this room, and then select Inbox, and then go down to the bottom where it says Error, Remote Lab 1.2 Access Code. This will actually contain the code. As you can see, it is 748250. Apparently something suspicious happened over here. I haven't got too deep into the lore quite yet. But yeah, it requires us to go over to Tanagra Town and go inside this room to investigate it. So once again, the code is 748250. That should grant you access. Now, I didn't find what I was assuming what was going to be in here, which was a mine tunnel of some sort to get underneath Tanagra Town. It would have been nice, but yeah, that wasn't the case. I do know in the future eventually we will be adventuring underground in Fallout 76. That's where that speculation came about of what may be behind this door. Anyways, yeah, unfortunately there was no mining system to get underground. However, I did discover this shielded lining for operative under armor if you are interested in that. That is really all that I seen in this room. I did not see any notes or anything to pick up that goes into detail more over what happened here. Either way, it seems like this may be some kind of future content involving a quest to come to this location, or it's just a spawn location specifically for the shielded lining operative plan, which I don't think that's going to be the case. I think sometime in the future more things will be added into this room, and during part of a quest we'd be sent here for something like a holotape to explain a little bit more of what happened here. I don't know. I feel like this area is just going to be used for something else than just to come here for a shielded operative under armor plan. Okay, so something else that's pretty interesting that I wanted to mention is if you travel to the top, well, not exactly at the top, near the top of Tanagra Town, which either way, it's still a journey to get up here. Eventually though, you can come across this cave here, And inside, once again, you will encounter a bunch of cave crickets and some flora here and there. But if you travel deeper down inside this, you can see this giant mysterious statue head. What's creepy about this is that it seems like it's been here for a very, very long time, seeing how deep it is in the ground. I mean, you can kind of get the gist of how deep this is underground. I mean, technically it isn't really underground anymore. These vines or whatever is pushing the ground up. This place is just really strange and mysterious. Like, out of all areas to lift above the ground, why was it this town that had a giant mysterious statue head underneath it? And also, something else mysterious to point out about this statue is the detail of its eyes. One of them, for some reason, is opened. Thought this was an interesting detail to point out. I'm not exactly sure what this means, if this has any type of significance whatsoever, but it does seem like these statues do have a deeper meaning than what meets the eye currently in the Fallout universe, because there's also more of these located deep under the ground at the Lucky Hole Mine. You can actually find one here, as you can see, and we can find this on our way down to the Interloper. It's in this eerie area where it seems like some kind of sacrifice took place at. Also, where the Interloper dwells at in the Lucky Hole Mine at the very bottom, which, by the way, I did make a very detailed video over this creature. If you are interested in that, I'll leave a link down below to that video in the description. But yeah, as you can see, there's a bunch of those giant statue heads in the background of the Interloper. Now, whatever these are, it seems like they are located deep under the ground, and they actually may contain a pretty deep meaning within the Fallout universe, because they have been spotted in the past, such as at Dunwich Borers. There was a cult that would do rituals above this giant statue head. This was in Fallout 4. Now, whether or not we'll know more about these in the future is currently unknown. And also, something else to point out that this place may be connected with the Interloper. This is just a small little detail that I noticed, but at the very top of Tanagra Town, you can find this chalkboard, and on this chalkboard, you can find this strange doodle. I'm not exactly sure what this is representing. At first, honestly, I thought it was representing a turtle, but yeah, you can actually find this doodle heading down to the Interloper. And something even more interesting, you can find this same doodle in one of the frat houses that came with this new DLC. As you can see, it's located on this chalkboard in here, which is Lewis's house, I believe. So I'm not exactly sure what this symbol is signifying exactly, but it could be linking perhaps that this person who lived here, which was Lewis, was also at Tanagra Town and also going down to the Interloper at the Lucky Hole Mine. And the reason why I'm suggesting that is because on this chalkboard you can see that it says F6U ? Now, these letters are signifying elements from the periodic table. And what's crazy is, going deeper down in the rabbit hole, you can also find these elements written on a chalkboard right before going into the Interloper's lair. As you can see, it has FUN ? So I think possibly one of those frat members, specifically Lewis, could have been a part of whatever was happening down here. And it seems like they were trying to study it or something. I'm not exactly sure, but they do have buff out plus syringe equals FUN ? and mutated something. I'm not exactly sure if this is just signifying fun or if these are also from the periodic table. Anyways, also at the top of Tanagra Town, you can find this key card, which this is to get the Nuke Quantum Power Armor that was just recently added within the Wild Appalachia DLC. And I'm not going to be showing how to get this just because there's quite a bit of steps to get it, and that'll just drag this video out way too long. But anyways, lastly up here, I wanted to go over the Dormak and Jalad that you can find written on this wall at the bus stop. In case some of you may be wondering about this is actually a Star Trek reference.
Tamak. The river Tamak. In winter. Dormak. And Jalad. At Tanagra.
And actually, out of this reference, the Fallout content creator Oxhorn came up with a theory, rather than just this being written on the wall, that we could be Dormak and Jalad sent here to take on something that may come. And he suspects possibly the Interloper. Now, of course, he's not meaning we are literally Darmok and Jalad, but we are basically referencing them coming here to Tanagra Town. And I have to say, I do agree with him. I do think something interesting is going to happen here at some point in the future. May have to do with aliens. I mean, it would go hand in hand with the Star Trek reference here. But yeah, that's about wrapping up this video, everybody. Hopefully you found this enjoyable. And if you did, consider leaving a like. That's always greatly appreciated. But hey, that's totally up to you. I'm out of here, though. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen. Until next time, peace.